Hello, and welcome to another episode of the New World Comics podcast. I am Buck Berlin, owner-operator of said New World Comics here in Oklahoma City. Not joined with us this week, Stephanie Cerny. Turns out she doesn't like Carl all
really
that
sad.
much. Yeah.
Greatest tragedy in my life.
So, is it?
Yes, actually, yeah.
Huh.
I've lived a pretty good life.
I'll let her know. Running the show for us is Brad Reed of Nerds to Men fame.
Blessings.
Yeah, you can check out the Nerds to Men podcast everywhere. You can check out the New World Comics podcast, which is on Spreaker, Stitcher, Streaker.
Oh, almost.
Oh, I always get that one wrong. There's no, Apple.
There is no streaker. I mean,
well, not in here.
yeah.
Yeah, not in.
Maybe we
not
should come up with one.
Not in many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put your podcast on it.
Apple Playtunes stores.
Apple iTunes.
God, I'm the
Google
worst.
Knows it
Play.
all.
Yep. This is why Brad runs the
Spotify.
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah. It's why Brad Reed runs the show and not me with the technologies.
call.
I know. Ask me anything about the comics, I'll tell you. Technologies. Someone tell me that.
Yeah,
How to
you'd
use
have
my
us
phone.
on some weird sites. Of
Yeah.
streaker and all that. I think this is
my
what
way.
Brad told me to put it on.
All right. Joined with us this week is Carl Albert.
Hello, hello.
Woo! Yay!
I love you, Carl.
Yeah. Carl, would you tell the fine folks at home and work who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Carl. I am originally from the great city of Oklahoma City, but I am currently based out of Los Angeles, where I go to school. I'm at film school at USC, University of Southern California. I worked at New World for a while.
Yeah, but tell them where you're going tomorrow.
Oh, I'm going to study abroad in London, the Queen Mary University of London.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that and nervous, but mostly excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm hyped.
Man, film school, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy to get in. I was a little story about that. So the acceptance rate for my year for our program, I'm a screenwriting major, was 2%. And so naturally I was terrified because my grade was like 28 people they let in. And I was at WonderCon in Los Angeles when my mom calls me, and we knew to expect a letter that day. And it was a big package, and that should have been a good sign, but I naturally went to the worst case scenario. And but she told me
a whole bunch of gummy middle fingers. And
exactly. Suck it, you didn't get in.
Yeah.
And it, she gave me the news. She read out the major, and me and my dad just started crying in the middle of the convention floor, just in front of all these people. And that's how I found out I got into USC.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Although your siblings all went to pretty prestigious.
They did. My parents have somehow, they're 4 for 4. Everyone, my 2 older siblings and my little brother Luke, all got into their dream schools. So
it's which are just throw it out just
okay. Wow. We're pumping this. Okay. My sister and little brother went and currently goes to Harvard, and my older brother went to Duke.
Yeah,
And
so that's pretty big time.
Yeah.
And, just to further your pedigree, your namesake.
Yeah, so my name, Carl Albert. I'm named after the high school, and really that's where it all comes from.
Yeah, no.
No, that's what everyone in Oklahoma City would have you believe. I and the high school are named after my grandfather, Carl Albert, who was Speaker of the House under Nixon, and went through all the Watergate stuff. He went to the highest federal office of any Oklahoman, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's just so crazy to know that, and then see your dad, who's like one of the nicest, most fun people
Right.
on the planet.
A weirdo. He's a techie guy. He's an inventor. Yeah, it is weird. It's weird. You wouldn't expect it.
Which, for the longest time, we were all pretty sure that he didn't think that we knew his name.
Yeah.
Because, he came in and like, hey guys, I'm Dave. Call me Dave, call me David.
Right.
And then for a while, we'd all just, hey, how's it going? Is our usual thing. And then, we don't usually, call out names too
Right.
terribly often. So for a while he was just, hey guys, Carl's dad. They're like, yeah, we know.
Yeah. I remember that. Anytime he'd come in, he's like, "Hey, everyone." That's how he'd introduce himself. Is I'm Carl's dad.
Yeah.
And that became the name. He loves that story.
Yeah.
He thinks it's so funny.
Yeah. So for Free Comic Book Day, we were giving out name tags for everyone, and for him, we just made sure it was Carl's dad. But yeah, no, your family's just awesome. Yeah, we just love having them.
I know.
All the time.
They love coming here. We all love it. It's great. It's a great community. I love it.
So what got you into comics?
So I don't know. It's sort of like chicken and the egg. I don't know that I could tell you like the very first thing. 'Cause I watched like Batman the Animated Series, all the Timverse stuff, and I watched when I was young but old enough to start getting into them. I saw the Raimi Spider-Man movies and the X-Men movies, and so I don't know if that came first or what. My older sister, Harvard sister, was a big comic book fan. And if I had to like really put my finger on like one thing that got me into comics, would be her. Like the actual books themselves. She brought me here, and the rest is history. I think Ultimate Spider-Man and Civil War were my first two comics that really like thrust me into things and gave me my love for comics. And
yeah, I remember you coming in like, hey, I need good Captain America comics. What are the best Captain America comics? What's the best Spider-Man that you can recommend? Like,
Right.
What's all this?
It was, yeah. It's weird. I have like very vague, because I was pretty young. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
I read a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have read when I was like 8 years old. I read like the Ultimates, all the Mark Millar stuff that If you know anything about Mark Millar, he doesn't write very fun all ages comic books. And
I mean, some of the stuff he does has been just not necessarily intentionally
right.
done for.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I would say I started out as a Marvel fan. I got more into DC as time went on. But,
right.
Definitely, that's where my origin story starts.
Yeah, because I mean, you really got big into it around Civil War.
Yes, it was right. It was right when Civil War was happening.
Like that. I think that's when you first got a poll here. And
That was definitely the first time. I also remember reading. I don't think about this very often. You got us the little Franklin Richards like kid comics.
Oh,
and
man.
I remember reading those. Those were great. Yeah, it was crazy actually thinking about it. The diversity of the poll there with Civil War, where Goliath is getting his like blown through by Robot Thor, and then you have Franklin Richards, a little cartoony.
Yeah. But I mean, that's I think how most people should read comics is
Right.
like don't read just one type of
Absolutely.
comic because there's it runs the gamut of
just tone,
tones
style,
and-
everything.
style, yeah.
That's the thing that frustrates me actually about a lot of people who look down on comic books is they don't realize how diverse
Right.
the industry really is.
Well, and
Even
I
if you
mean,
hate superheroes,
Yeah.
Image has a ton of great comics. Dark Horse.
yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, if DC could embrace what they do best, like they did back in like 06, was it really did have here are essentially funny animal comics in continuity the same time as like
Right.
You have world-ending events that are
Yeah.
like the darkest thing that could possibly
All the
happen.
crises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you should have Captain Carrot, hanging out.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I need some more Captain Carrot.
Yeah. Like,
Give me that animated movie right now. I demand it.
man, yeah, I want to see the Captain Carrot and Uncle Hoppy crossover. Like, that would be the most amazing.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah. Or if it could parody the Shazam Superman First
Right,
Thunder.
Right.
Like if
that would be, yeah.
Get Jeff Loeb to rewrite it, and we'd
Yes.
really have something.
That would be great. Oh my god. We need some more of those talking animals. What are they? Where are they?
Well, get make sure that Taki Tani is
Oh yeah, you got to
Yeah.
include Taki Tani.
which as of this podcast, the Shazam movie hasn't come out.
Right.
Yeah, but do you think they're going to throw in Taki Tani?
I hope so. I mean, if we see a tiger, you know what's coming. I
mean, when we first saw the costume, Kira zoomed in on it and saw the little buttons that keep on his cape.
Yeah.
Those have little tiger heads on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I feel like there was something about there was some stuffed animal tiger or something people saw in like released like stills or in the trailer. So I don't know. I hope something. I hope we get a Takitani. That would be great.
Yeah.
You know, Shazam is of all the franchises to include a talking animal. That's the one.
Yeah, because it's definitely the most fun you can really have in a mainstream.
Right. It's just wild, you know, kid friendly, just a lot of fun. I'm excited for that movie. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah. The only trepidation I really have is that it's written by the guy that did Turbo.
Yeah, it's not
The
great.
super fast snail.
Yeah, I know what Turbo is. Sadly, yeah. We'll see. You know, Marvel surprised us. So let's hope DC, you know, surprised us with some unknown talent.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like they're really trying to shake things up and trying to get away from their darker tones.
Right, definitely.
So.
I'm curious to see how they play up their continuity in the future too. If they're actually going to like just abandon it entirely, or if they're going to slowly build back up to, I don't know, another Justice League or something.
I think that they wouldn't necessarily abandon it because they definitely have found some fan base.
Right, for sure.
I could see them keeping what works and then moving on from.
Right.
Kind of like what DC's done with Rebirth.
Yeah.
You know, like they didn't just say, hey, we're completely abandoning the New 52,
Right.
but we're going to keep the things that worked and just downplay the heck out of everything that didn't.
Flashpoint's a perfect, you know, opportunity to make that further that transition if that movie ever comes out.
Man, I think Ezra Miller was such a bad choice for Flash.
It was not great. Certainly not for Barry Allen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I love Ezra Miller. Like, he's one of my favorite young actors working today. He can play such a variety of roles, but
he's just
the way they played that character was not...
Right. It's weird to say, which, I mean, we're skipping ahead a little. Yeah. When you see things adapt from one genre to another...
Right.
Do you still think of them as that character, or do you do you recognize that it's not necessarily that character at all anymore? That it's entirely
it depends. I would say generally I still want to see, you know, the integrity of the source material preserved, and you know, there's a core, I think, to every character that needs to be there.
Right.
But, like, for example, for Aquaman, I thought, you know, it's nothing like Aquaman has ever been in the comics.
Right.
But, you know, it worked. If it's compelling enough, then I'm willing to overlook that.
Like Robert Downey Jr. was nothing like Tony Stark
at the time.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to make, you know, Iron Man Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
well, comics.
I mean, you know... Tony Stark in the comics for the longest time was just cardboard.
Right, he was. He had alcoholism. That was like his only feature.
Yeah,
and that was it was it's definitely something I'm open to. You know,
okay.
There's some where, like with Superman,
make him smile.
Yeah, there's just certain things you have to have. He's a hopeful hero, not you know, Batman.
Yeah.
Batman, though, actually is a character that proves you can have a variety of interpretations, and they're all valid. You know?
Well, and, you know, I've said for a while that it's way easier to write Batman than it is Superman, because we can all, you know, pretty much agree on what's the worst thing.
Right.
It's death and loss.
Right.
What's the happiest thing?
Right.
You know,
it's tough.
And then it's the you know, someone birth and life and stuff. But no, sometimes the birth of things are like the worst things that have happened.
Right. It's definitely tough, and people, I mean, clearly struggle with his powers and like how to balance that, and how to tell compelling stories, but that still feel.
I always
human.
think that a good Superman story, Superman is trying to keep things as crazy as he possibly can with all of his friends, but make sure that everyone stays safe.
Right.
You know, like that is like when we did the Superman superhero school.
Right.
You know, Superman's just not really there until the very end, just because he's out making sure that everything's safe.
Good. Yeah.
While all this fun stuff's happening with his friends.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. It's Superman. I don't know. To me, I feel like the thing that people often miss with him is his humanity.
Yes.
Like they try to make him a god, which is like just because he's super powerful doesn't mean like he's supposed to be more in a lot of ways relatable than Batman, even though Batman is a literal human.
Superman just so happens to be right, whereas Batman knows he's right.
Right. It's exactly. Superman's just trying. He's always trying to do the right thing, but it's not like he may not always be right, but he, like
Yeah.
I said, he happens to be most
Yeah,
of the time.
and Clark Kent recognizes that Superman is the persona that he puts on.
Right.
It's not necessarily that that's always him.
Right. Yeah, no, I subscribe to the idea that, there's a little bit of Clark in both his like Clark Kent persona and his Superman persona.
Sure.
That he's like
I think that the rightness that Superman has, is
Right.
as Clark, and he didn't
Yeah.
quite. It's not a realized or an actualized
for sure
thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's, I don't know. It honestly, it kind of frustrates me that we still haven't gotten, a solid Superman movie since they like 1980, whenever Superman 2 came out.
Yeah.
And it's, oh man.
I mean, if you go back and watch it, it's not without flaws.
Oh no, definitely. Neither
Like
of those
the-
movies are. The
yeah.
third act of the original Superman movie is horrible. And it's
If you
like a
spin
real estate
backwards,
crisis.
yeah.
No, it's awful. But
But they got the character of Superman so right.
so right.
Or more accurately, they got Clark Kent so
Right.
right. And
Yeah.
if you get Clark Kent right, I think that Superman just kind of follows. It's
I
like,
agree.
Yeah,
a lot of things just click into pace.
yeah, it's like
Place
working
to
out.
play, yeah.
If you work out your core, then the rest kind of follows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got it. No, I agree absolutely. It's just frustrating. One of your questions on here is, what's one of your, or what are your dream projects? And one of them is like to make a good Superman movie. Like I would love to work on a Superman movie. Be like, this is Superman.
Yeah.
Take some of the Grant Morrison, some of the Mark Waid. Even maybe a touch of. I'm not crazy about John Byrne's take on Superman, but like even a little bit.
it had so many good ideas from it.
right.
Yeah.
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 There's so much to pull from. I'd love to see a little bit of the classic Superman too, the kind of, beating up wife beaters and, what Grant Morrison brought back with the New 52, the social justice aspect of, really pursuing, truth, justice, and the American way.
Right.
Putting that back into Superman. But for the foreseeable future, we'll see what we get.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it'd be really cool if DC embraced the multiverse aspect of everything, and did we can have this movie and this movie and this movie,
Right.
and
They seem to be doing that.
we might be getting that with the Joker movie,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So if
I hope they do it too.
if that takes off, then we could have, hey, here's Henry Cavill's Superman. Hey, here's someone else's Superman movie.
Right.
Hey, here's
That would be cool. I would love that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
yeah, I'd be down.
I think All-Star Superman is just perfect for like a live action adaptation for something like that, like an Elseworlds thing.
Yeah.
I think would be great. I think you could adapt it really well.
Well, and the end towards, when they're explaining Superman to you, and you realize, oh, no, Superman's real.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
great.
Which
Great.
it's cool that I can say that it's not spoiling anything. Like it's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, it's
So
a great comic.
yeah. I mean, you bring that up. What are some of your other favorite comic stories, or like your
Yeah.
all time greats that you might?
So I'm sort of weird in that the smaller scale you get in terms of like the storytelling, the harder it is for me to like pick one. Like I can't think of a single issue that I was like, this is my favorite single issue of all time.
Interesting.
Yeah, for whatever reason I cannot. I can think of like some good ones, and like Ultimate Spider-Man 13 is one of my favorites.
So for those that don't know, that's the one where teenage Peter Parker, who was set in modern times at the time,
Right. Yeah.
goes to his best friend / girl that he really likes and says, all right, so I'm Spider-Man and I have to confide in someone and I've chosen you. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It's just it's Brian Michael Bendis at his best. Just
Yeah.
writing two teenagers being very human, very cute and wholesome, but also there's real pathos there, and like.
Well, and there's something to that with the teen drama, because when you're a teen and haven't experienced a lot. Every new experience is the most
It's huge,
extreme
right.
ever.
It's the most intense thing you've ever had.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, and that's why everyone's like first love is they're like
Right.
oh my god.
Oh
It's
yeah. The hormones.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
And then later on it's that wasn't all that important.
Right.
What was I thinking? That's
Oh, yeah.
dumb.
I know. Just think back on like high school crushes and high school romances. You're like, that's nothing now. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just a few years out of high school.
Yeah, it's why didn't I talk to that girl or why did
right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so like the Ultimate story, Ultimate Spider-Man line is perfect for that.
Yeah, and that was one of my favorite comic book runs. I have a certain nostalgia for it where I will definitely overlook some of its flaws.
Yeah.
But I love that run.
Did you carry on through for the Miles introduction?
Yes, I did. I actually Miles became Spider-Man right when I was getting back into comics. When I was like 14 years old.
Yeah.
Back when I started coming by here again consistently, and started the pull list that I've had since. That's Miles became Spider-Man, and that was huge and very excited. It freaked me out at first. I hadn't read the Death of Spider-Man comic yet, and that's one of actually in naming my favorite comics. That's one of my favorite comics.
That scene where they're at the funeral, and Cap is escorting Aunt May and Gwen into the cathedral.
Right.
That little girl was like, "Are you Spider-Man's mom?
Yeah.
Did you make him breakfast?"
Yeah.
Yeah. He saved my life, and then you see the girl and she's burned.
I know.
You're like, oh. I'm tearing up just talking about it.
I know.
It's heavy stuff, man.
It gets
heavy stuff.
And Peter and dying in May's arms, the whole I couldn't save Ben, but I did it. I saved you. It's like that gets me every time. That's one of the few comics that's legitimately made me cry. And again, it's like partially my own like bias. Peter Parker is my favorite character, and
yeah, well, and when they introduced Miles, and they kept putting him in similar situations as Peter,
right?
And he would say something. Like he'd have the exact same line of dialogue that Peter had at that same time, but it would have completely different context.
Right.
It was oh my God, Bendis truly is one of the greatest comic writers out
absolutely.
there. And now he's,
off doing his Superman thing.
Yeah, it's the man. You're like I get collecting a paycheck, but
right.
You could be changing the industry here.
Right. No, it's definitely true. He has the potential. Sometimes it just doesn't quite live up to it.
Yeah.
No, you're just touching on Miles again. That was awesome. That run always stung too because Peter's death like weighed so heavily on him.
Yeah.
It's a lot like the Wally West Flash run and like Mark Waid or even all the way to Jeff Johns. Barry's death, really had a big impact on every arc, every story.
Right.
And Peter's had the same on Miles. And whenever Miles, interacted with Aunt May or Mary Jane or Gwen, it always stung. There was always some little.
Oh yeah, it was so perfectly done.
Oh, it gives me chills just thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, naming favorite comics Ultimate Spider-Man, all of Ultimate Spider-Man, pretty much nearly to the end. Planetary, which you introduced me to.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorites. I reread that just a few weeks ago. I love it.
Now, when you reread it, do you find new things that you...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember that's one of the first things you told me about is every time I reread it, I find something new. Like you brought up the two-dimensional but in a three-dimensional space thing. Like we're living in a comic book. The aspect there. I loved it. I really drilled into that bit when I reread it this last time. I was like, oh man, this is what Buck was talking about. It was this. There's something new every time. There's just little details about the characters
and the weird interconnections of oh my God, this did enact this that happens way down the road.
Oh yeah.
Getting
to see all the foreshadowing, everything. It's it's wild.
Yeah. Although there are some kind of fumbles like right off the bat, they fight the Justice League, and then later they're like, "Oh, here's another Justice League."
Right? Yeah. That was a little weak. You're right.
So it feels like Warren Ellis and John Cassidy were like, "Hey, let's screw around and do a fun story."
Right.
And then right about the Fantastic Four issue,
yeah,
they do the, oh, we can do a lot with this.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
That's really when it clicks. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of I think that's like the first trade.
Yeah,
The first,
it's like
6
issue
issues.
4 or 5 or 6. Yeah.
Where that's really where it clicks. That's such a great comic book. Another one that you recommended, but I actually didn't get to until I started college later on, was Sandman, because I mean, talking about a similar situation, the first few issues of that comic are not great.
Yeah.
It really stumbles, but man, when it gets going,
Oh,
towards
yeah.
the end of that first trade and the second one, that's one of my all-time favorites too. I'm a sucker for Neil Gaiman. I've never read anything by him I haven't enjoyed.
It's one of those where it would be really cool to see him redo today, not for the sake of a cash grab or whatever,
Right.
but because it couldn't decide if it was part of the DC universe or not
Right.
throughout so much of it.
Yeah.
And it would seem like, for these few years, we're going to forget about all this.
Right.
And then when they lean real hard into the Sandman mythos,
Right.
and throw in Wesley Dodds and the Jack Kirby Sandman
Right.
and Fury from
Right.
Infinity Incorporated. Yeah.
Yeah. It's no. I mean, I don't know that his approach would change. I feel like that was part of, I don't know,
I mean, like
Gaiman's thing, because he also, so much of how he writes is he kind of flies by the seat of his pants. Like he
Yeah.
has sort of a grand plan, but there's a lot of holes, between
right.
the start and finish line. So it's very much like, oh, I came up with this cool idea about the Sandman mythos. Let's include that. Or
Right.
oh no, this is a totally different thing with the Endless and
well, and that's what I mean. If he could tighten that up,
right.
like can you imagine like
That would be really cool.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still. I mean, it's
Oh,
about
yeah,
as close
that-
to perfect as it gets.
Yeah, that's not me trying to discredit the series. I'm
Right.
just saying, like, man, if he could,
Yeah.
like there aren't many things where I think that if the original creator could go back and tighten
Right.
something up.
No, for sure. I definitely. I'm curious too how they could. I mean, you're talking about its ties to the DC universe, because it has that like deep, like mythological ties to Sandman and all the Sandmans.
Right.
But like, what if they could do that with the other Endless more?
Right.
Like Destiny in the Book of Destiny. There's some of that, but really with Death and everything. If you had those other like, do they have avatars?
Yeah, like
And-
what's Death's relationship with like Black Racer from the New Gods?
Right. Exactly.
Like and
Really exploring that.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
With the, if he could go back and really
That would be really cool. I
either
agree.
lean into or shy away from.
Right.
Pick one.
Figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that. I definitely agree. That would be very cool. And I as much as I enjoy it as its own like standalone thing, I definitely think it would be cool to see it sort of lean into the DC aspects and be like, well, what else is there here that you can
Right.
tie everything together and make this one cohesive universe?
Well, and when they announced the 52, aside from knowing that it was just going to be a quick cash grab,
right.
I thought, man, if they had planned this,
Mm-hmm.
from the get go, like there's so many things that they could have fixed continuity wise,
Right.
But they didn't. It was a big cash grab. It was,
Right. That's comics.
yeah. Warner Brothers found out that DC owned Batman, but Marvel was still kicking their ass in
Right.
sales, so they were like, well. Either everyone starts selling more comics, or we're firing everyone
Yeah.
and doing this ourselves.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
corporate politics. It happens.
So, so I guess moving on to corporate politics, let's talk about some of your film schoolings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tell us just a general overview of what you've covered so far in film school, or just like a
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm majoring in screenwriting, and the major is officially called Writing for Screen and Television. And I would say we've covered, basic story structure, whether it be like 3-act structure or the different sort of shapes of stories. Kurt Vonnegut has this whole thing about there are like only 8 types of stories that you can tell, and these are them, and he gives like little cheeky names for them, like Icarus, is the rise and fall, or Rags to Riches is started at the bottom, now I'm here, and so learned a lot about structure. We're I mean, frankly, a lot of like broad stuff about writing and storytelling and filmmaking generally. But I'm now a junior, entering my second semester, and we're really getting into more specific stuff now. Very specific types of screenplays, even. Like this last semester, I wrote. We had a class called Advanced Screenwriting, writing the relationship screenplay, and so you had to write a screenplay about a specific relationship between two characters, whether you think of like generically like a buddy cop or a rom-com or something like that.
Okay.
And so we're getting more specific in that way, and sometimes it's frustrating because if you have ideas for different stories that don't fit within the confines of the class, you have to put those aside and come up with something last minute, which is what I did.
Well, actually, that was something that I was going to get into with you was, do you ever have the situation of, man, I really feel like doing this. Oh no, I've been tasked with this
All the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's your best key to like break through like writer's block or?
So I don't believe in writer's block as it's like traditionally referred to. I believe that. And to an extent, this is just me speaking for myself, but I listen to like a ton of writers' podcasts, and have all my professors are professional screenwriters. They are in the industry, and by my understanding, writer's block. There's a lot of reasons why you can struggle to write, whether it be you're super depressed and whatever, your grandma just died, and that's really weighing on you, and so you can't muster yourself to write. Or you, a lot of the time, it's the act of writing itself that you don't want to do, and it's because it's not always easy. Like even someone who is going to be a professional writer one day, I don't always want to sit down, but you just have to do it, and you have to keep going. And even if every word is like grinding, teeth, and
because at the end of the day, it's a job.
Exactly,
yeah.
And so you have to treat it like one, and you have to build up habits and frankly, a lot of my classmates are really bad about it, and they'll wait till like the night before to write something, which is horrible. It's a horrible idea. You will kill yourself. But I would say, I mean, in terms of writer's block specifically, it's just having a schedule, like sticking to, forcing yourself, having the willpower to keep going.
How do you stave off burnout?
Burnout, that's another thing, is you can burn yourself out. That's another form of writer's block. For me, I think every writer's different. For me, I have to write a variety of things.
Okay.
If I'm writing the same thing, if I was writing a Nolan-esque sort of like superhero thriller, something like it, and that was all I was doing, I would burn out in like 3 months. Just doing one thing and one thing. I like to have a lot of stuff, a lot of different projects going on at once.
So you're saying that you couldn't do like a serial procedural, like an NCIS or?
That I would hate that so much.
Interesting.
I could never do. I couldn't work on a procedural show.
What about then like say one of the superhero things?
Right, like the CW ones.
Yeah, because those are thinly veiled procedurals.
No, certainly. For me, I would definitely go to work on one, but I would not. I don't think I could stay there like for years and years and years.
I got you. You wouldn't try to change up the procedure of it, or
if anything, that's what I would do. Is if I got to be a showrunner of a show like The Flash, I would start doing what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did in the most recent seasons, and like have these little pods, which they're actually apparently doing. I'm watching The Flash, and they're apparently doing these little villain pods now, and it's still stretched out, and it's so many episodes every season. But I would say that I'm a big form of serialized storytelling.
Okay.
More like HBO shows in that way, and Stranger Things, whatever. That
you're wanting to tell one overarching story that is then broken up.
It's like a long movie in a way. Yeah,
I got you.
So that's just more how my brain works.
Okay.
I have some classmates who love procedurals, and like that's what because there's so much money in procedurals.
And I mean, it's so easy that once you figure out the winning format, like
you got
Psych.
Yeah.
Even they point out here's the exact same situation we got in last week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Flash has started doing that, being like, oh, another metahuman, like blah blah blah. And And I mean, I respect that. I still watch some. Like I said, I watch The Flash still.
Yeah.
So there's something to them, but it's just not. That's not my like ideal situation work wise. And I think again having some serialized elements helps for me personally. But in terms of just staving off like burnout, it's really about having that diversity, which you can do too. Even working on one of those shows is you sit in a writer's room for 3 months and you write
you
a
do
bunch
the work, and then I guess on your off time you
work on side projects.
Okay,
Exactly.
and
you write
then
your own movie
that'll-
and something. And,
okay, and that'll free you up, so to speak.
yeah, and,
Interesting.
And I mean, I talked about having very different projects, and I truly. I have a lot of classmates that write the same thing over and over. Like my girlfriend, she's same major, same year. She writes, I mean, different stories, but like very much within the same style.
So you're
same
saying she's a
genre.
bad writer?
No, she's
he
very
said
good.
it right here, right now. He hates her, that she's a bad writer, and wants to.
He's reading between the lines and reading
Like
correctly.
a good reader should know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and like a lot of people, they feel comfortable writing these things, and so they want to just keep writing that, and they get great at. She's actually a fantastic writer, and just nails it. But I personally, I get bored if I'm writing the same thing.
I got
over
you.
and over.
I mean, like the people that do the teen romance stuff, or like
Right, exactly.
action
I could
thriller.
never do that.
Like if you're like an action thriller kind of person,
Right.
then like you're always thinking, oh, here's a cool little trick that you could do, and then figuring out the variations of that. There's definitely very much an art to that.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I wouldn't discredit anyone who's like, oh,
No.
I like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. They get so good at doing that, like that one thing, and they learn all the different ins and outs,
Yeah.
and how to subvert it to the best ability. And in that way, it's a superior form of storytelling, just because you understand it so well, in whatever genre, whatever style, whatever tone. I mean, Christopher Nolan's movies are all different, but they are very much like within the same style.
Yeah.
And he nails it, and he knows how to do it. And I would say, to some extent, that's just your voice, and I imagine I bring that to everything. But, like, for example, to give a more concrete example about what I'm talking about, this last semester I wrote both a pilot for a horror drama, like a very dark horror drama with, everything I write has humor. I find it's very important. I am not one of the people who thinks the MCU movies should have less humor. I hate those people. I'm not even going to go there right now.
Well, I mean, I would agree that the humor is the thing that takes a lot of the edge off of.
Right.
Like if someone's like, "Hey, call me Captain America."
Right.
Hey, I'm Doctor Strange, master of the mystical arts.
Right. It makes it, easier to swallow. And it's also, I think generally in storytelling, humor is humanizing.
Well, and think about like when you're on a date and, something awkward comes up, you got to make fun of it real quick.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You
Humor,
gotta-
it's
yeah.
such a universal thing for people. And, in the same way that tragedy is, but I think wallowing in like one specific thing, it just, I don't like that. But the other thing I wrote was a pirate fantasy, and it was very lighthearted and meant to be, because we don't have a lot of pirate movies. I don't get it. I love pirates, but
That's because Johnny Depp is taking all of them.
yeah, I know. And it's basically though is like I like to experiment with genre. I just started writing horror. I like to write a lot of different types of fantasy. Oh, and on the side, on top of that, I write like superhero fan fiction just for fun. And
Nerd.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's actually how I talking about myself, just my story. That's how I got my start writing. Really, was I wrote fan fiction, and people who crap on it. I didn't write anything else for most of high school, all of middle school, and I got into the hardest to get into the best film school in the world.
Yeah.
So like, it's a real form of writing, and you can hone your craft that way.
Yeah.
That's my little preaching soapbox.
Writing is writing is writing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all the same, and there are differences in every
yeah.
medium and stuff, but it's
Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those where there are certain people that ruin it for everyone else.
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some really bad stuff out there, but that's true about anything. There are some really bad comics that people then give comics. They give comics a bad rap.
Right.
And it's the same thing with fan fiction. Is you have like horrible, horrible like slash fics and stuff that, you know, everyone's like, oh, this is what it's all like. It's all 12-year-old white girls in the middle class neighborhood who write the same stories over and over about these two guys kissing. Like, there's more there, you know. And
well,
even then,
count me out.
You know, but yeah, I love fan fiction.
Well, how's this? It sounds like you've done quite a bit, you know, learning and growing just on your own as a writer. This,
yeah.
What's something that you learned at school that you thought you knew?
This is in some ways sort of a cop-out answer, but and this is not what you want to hear, like not what I would want my parents to hear talking about film school, you know, paying so much money to send me off. That there's really not one way to tell a story, and that, like, you know, there's no like set way to tell a good story. It's all the rules are meant to be broken. And so, you know, so much of what we're taught is they teach it to you like it's foundational, like it's just fundamental. This is how you tell a good story. And then, you know, especially now that I'm getting into the later years of college, then professors start being more honest with you and be like, all right, we're teaching you all this so you can know how to break it and how to subvert it.
No, and I think a good foundation is needed.
You need it, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there are people who get lucky and just happen to, like, write something fantastic, but I think generally the people, especially when you're trying to, like, subvert a genre or something, need to have an understanding of that genre, or an understanding of that, like, the structure of a story, of a 3-act story. And I mean, that's one of the things I think Infinity War did so well, is it took like what you expected from a Marvel movie and then actively subverted it, and, you know, gave you tons of surprises that way. Same thing with the Russos, just do it, and Marcus and McFeely. With Civil War, they intentionally, like, you can find interviews online, they intentionally subverted the Marvel structure of having, you know, the big third act battle.
Yeah.
They wanted, was like, how about we do that in the second act, and then the last act is just this really personal, intimate conflict. And that's, like, I think the best part of the movie is that final confrontation with Winter Soldier and Cap and, you know, Zemo and who did I not name? Iron Man?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, and all of that. And I love that.
You know, like in Doctor Strange, you know, the director was like, so instead of destroying a city like every other Marvel movie, we're going to undestroy
it. Exactly, yeah. And I mean, even just the whole Dormammu thing, the fact that he had to bargain with this great, like, entity in funny ways. And, you know, this comic book podcast, we're talking about superhero movies, but you can do that with any genre, any, you know, staple of storytelling, you know, structure, tone, whatever. And that's what I really like. Or what I've really learned too is that how to, you know, to get this foundation and then to learn how to then break it.
Would you say that that's the most integral thing that you were taught, or is that just some of the better advice?
It's one of the most important things. Definitely, it's I've actually I'll circle back around to this, but
okay.
I have. When you knew me and when I was at the store, and it's still a part of me, but I was very, like, sort of by the books, you know, very like
I broke
bread
it,
person,
yeah.
and this store was actually a great part in, like, my evolving past that in a lot of respects. But I am now one of the students who, though you may not even always guess it when you look at me, like, I will actively, like, butt heads with teachers sometimes over, like this last semester, I had a professor who wanted a very specific thing for a story. And he was like, this is what makes a good story. And I was like, no, I disagree. This scene can be like this instead of this. And, like, you're manufacturing artificial conflict. Like, it's not natural. And so I've now, like, talking about this sort of subversion, like, it is one of the most important things to me, because I was always a very by-the-book person growing up. And now I'm sort of maybe rebounding too much, but, like, I sound so, like, pretentious saying, like, you know, I'm rebellious about how
it's
I try to
you
write.
just go to film school. So,
exactly. No, yeah. That's about as pretentious as it gets. But it's that is a huge thing for me, is knowing that, like, the rules can and should be broken, and, like, that's the best way to elicit an emotional reaction, is, like, making people feel comfortable and then being like, psych, you know, you.
I mean, that's the whole basis of telling a joke.
Exactly.
You know, like the whole thing that makes it funny is the thing that you don't expect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you can, you know, see the joke coming, it's not as funny.
Right.
You know. So no, absolutely, I agree 100%. That's a great example, analogy. But the other thing, and this is something that, I had somewhat of an understanding going into film school, but has really been cemented in my head now, is just the sheer importance of character. That, like, you can have a murky, convoluted plot, but if the audience cares about the characters, they won't care about, whatever plot holes there are, whatever, issues there are. That's where I think the DC movies have gone so wrong in a lot of places, is they don't make you care about the characters.
Do they teach you little tricks to build character? Like, do they do the, hey, when you're setting up this, if you give a guy a little smirk when he sees
sure,
teddy bear, something.
Yeah.
He's connected to this thing, and now we know that it's that.
I would say, the biggest thing that way, and what you'll hear a lot from a lot of writers, is just having empathy for them and writing them as real people. And so even your, like, mustache twirling villain, there's probably someone they love.
Yeah.
And there's, they have a reason for believing the things they do. And so it's just writing with a lot of empathy and getting inside, the heads of your characters. And sure, they're like little tricks, like even just something as simple as everyone's heard 1,000 times, like show, don't tell. Don't have a character like tell their whole backstory, like hint at it or something, and like show. And you can do, again, like every rule can be broken, and you can tell sometimes, and it's more powerful that way. But little things like having. Excuse me, I'm a little congested. Pictures of, like, dead parents in, like, Peter's room or something. Peter Parker, like little things like that, where you just, like, add that.
You mean pictures of his not
right
dead,
not actual dead parents. Just
that paints a completely different picture.
Yeah, it does. It's a very different Spider-Man movie. But and I think another big thing is I don't know if this is a trick, but like having your characters fail. That humanizes them, because you look at them and you're like, oh, I screw up all the time. I failed that test. I failed to get that girl, like whatever. And embracing that, that's why, God, I can't believe I keep coming back to this. But one of the reasons why Peter Parker is my favorite character is because he's constantly making mistakes and learning from them too, because they need to learn from him. And why I think his origin story is the most powerful one in comics is because it's all comes from him being
arrogant,
a
and
jerk,
and
he decides, oh, screw it, like I don't have to stop this guy, and that guy kills his uncle, and it's that haunts him for the rest of his life, and so that's a big thing too, is having very fallible characters.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I don't know if those are tricks, but yeah.
No, I mean that's that's a lot of what I was.
Yeah, exactly. It's just. I think, the big thing is pulling from your own life, too, and your own experiences. Whether, like, I haven't been in space and fought blue aliens, but, like...
I mean, you've been up here enough, so...
Yeah, that's true. I guess I have been around some blue aliens before, so never mind. But, most people don't have that experience.
Right.
And so, just getting down to the human core at the center of everything. And that's why, what's... Again, circling back to Superman, what makes him compelling is all of his conflicts are very human, but they're just on this larger-than-life level.
Well, the fact that, on some level, everyone feels like they're an outsider somewhere.
Right.
Whereas, Superman is an alien who's
literally
always an outsider no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you drill into that and the pathos there. And that's the key to good characters is empathy, pathos, making them human.
So, given all that, 10 years, 15, 22 years, whatever, what are your dream projects? What do you hope to do? Like, is there anything that you're trying to do right out the gate, or is there something that you want to build your skills towards and tackle whenever you feel ready?
Yes. Yes to both. I'm working on a novel right now, an epic fantasy thing, like a first in a series, and I feel confident. I've been writing for like 10 years now, and I feel confident enough in my skills that I can put out something that is genuinely good. And actually, one of the big tips they give for writing, and one of the most important things I've learned, is writing is rewriting. So yeah, your first draft may suck. You go back and you fix it.
Yeah.
And I feel confident that I can do that. I've actually been complimented by a professor saying that like I'm really good about taking notes and improve every draft is so much better than the last, and that's something that I feel comfortable that through that process I can put out something good. So the novel, that's something I'm working on, and I hope will be publishable someday and someone will want to buy. But at the same time, there is a lot of stuff that whether because I'm not quite good enough or because it's just how the industry works, I'm going to have to work my way up the ladder for a lot of things. Like TV shows are very hierarchical, and you have to climb that ladder slowly. But wait, what was the full question? What
the things that your dream projects, like if
dream projects?
Yeah,
right, that's right.
Yeah, and I had asked if there was something that you wanted right out the gate, which you got
right,
the novel,
or
if there's something that you wanted to work towards.
I would say, yeah, I've covered all that. So the dream projects themselves, I would say, this will come as no surprise, I want to work on Peter Parker at some point, whether it be a movie, a TV show, or a comic book. I want to write Spider-Man. I want to put my stamp on it. I want to be like, this is what I think of this character. This is what I have to say. And I already have ideas for that. I really would like to. I mean, frankly, I would like to work on a Marvel Studios movie, whether that be Spider-Man or something. I love that universe. I love what they've done with it. I think they've distilled a lot of the best parts of the comics.
Right.
And they've stumbled, but so much of what they do is great, and they have gotten riskier. And I would love to get to work with Kevin Feige and all the great
throw
people
in
there.
D-Man, get some
exactly. God, we need D-Man.
Oh my God,
Agents of Atlas, bring on Agents of Atlas. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah,
make that a reality.
I mean, we got Jimmy Chio, so
I know there's when they announced him, I lost my mind.
Yeah,
I was like, this is the first step.
Although seeing how he was portrayed in Ant-Man
wasn't
that's vastly
right.
different.
Yeah,
than,
not what we were looking for. Definitely.
Or Jimmy Woo. Yeah,
Jimmy Woo. That's right, Jimmy Woo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a dream. I'd like to showrun my own TV show at some point. Just generally, I mean, going off like the specifics, probably something on HBO. I just think generally they put out the best content.
You're gonna rework Oz. I'm just joking.
Yeah, prison show. No, it's
let me in there.
I mean, I look like someone who'd write a prison show, right? You look at me and you say, this guy, he's going to write a dark, edgy prison show.
It's that or a pirate movie.
Yeah. I would say I want to work in comics at some point. My ultimate dream is I want to put out at least like one thing in all the like genre, or not genres, but mediums.
Yeah, mediums, yeah.
I want to write comic. I want to have, put out, whether it be an indie comic, but frankly, I want to write for the big two at some point. I want to be able to like
be a company man. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I'd probably want to do some Image comic or something at some point, some totally creator owned.
Yeah,
sell it, make a movie of it, and make $1 billion. But I mean, I'd love to write for any of the big characters or small characters. I mean, there's so much potential with so many different characters that I'd love to tap. I'd like to write a musical at some point, whether it be like a stage musical or movie musical. I was a theater kid.
Yeah.
So
you're saying that the world at this point is your oyster.
Exactly. No, that's
you're just ready for it.
Yeah, I'm. Even that's also, like I said, I like to keep myself on my toes, and that's how I avoid burnout, is by always writing a new thing, and so that's part of it. Is I know in my career, if I write TV for 20 years, by the time I'm like 45, I'll be like, I'm done. I need to go write movies and comic books or a play or something.
So you're saying, Carl, we absolutely have to expect big things from you.
I hope so. Yeah. All right.
We're putting you to the highest standard.
Okay.
Judging you that you're.
If I don't have 3 Oscars, you'll be disappointed.
Right.
Like, yeah.
If you don't own an Oscar, or have a dog named Oscar, or know somebody named Oscar.
Right. I actually don't. So I got to work on that.
Life goals, am I right?
I know. Yeah.
Well, tell you what, I think we'll end there for the interview portion of this.
Yeah.
We have some fun store stories.
Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, this is it.
So, Carl, you've always been one of my favorite kids. When I first hired you, I knew the potential there. Like I knew that how awesome you could be at all this, but you were just so timid.
Yeah.
Your very
Yeah, it
first
was.
day,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite moments. I had piled up this big, massive trash that needed to get taken out to the dumpster, and it was a superhero school morning. I said, "Carl, take out the trash." And I ran off and was getting people in their costume doing their stuff. Like 20 minutes later, I come back over, and you're just staring at trash. You're like, I don't know which one is trash.
Yeah,
I was like, here's the hands, put on the thing, and
I was terrified. I could not think properly for like the first month I worked here.
You were oddly starstruck.
Yeah.
By the idea of working in a comic shop.
True.
Like
it was my first job, and it was also my dream, like high school job. And I was like, this is literally since I started coming back here when I was like 14, I was like, I have to work at New World, and I did. I like asked you for like 2 years or like a year before you like finally hired me.
Yeah, it was, all right, Carl, it's time.
And then it was trial by fire from there.
Well, yeah, and I knew, like, I'm not the kind of boss that's like, oh, you screwed up, then you know,
right.
2 screw ups and you're out. No,
you were chill about it.
Yeah,
you helped teach me, and it was great, and it paid off. That was a huge learning, like growth, experience for me.
The moment that I've been most proud, and probably of any of you lackeys, was I put you on a project where you had 6 people underneath you, and it was the Carl, get this done, choose your crew, do this,
right,
and you did it without flaw. You did it without hesitation, and you sounded just like me when you were barking out orders. Like, oh, he has learned.
Learn from the best. There you go.
Yeah, it was just wow, look at him go. Like, like there was absolutely no hesitation. It was sorting, organizing, and restructuring one of the comic racks.
Yeah.
And, I said, Carl, get this done. Choose who you want. And I saw the wheels turn. I saw it click. I saw you do the you, and you. Come here. We're going to do this thing. I need you to pick up this stuff. You organize this. You stop slacking off and do this. It was like, wow.
That's the character arc.
Listen
there you go.
to that kid go. But my all-time favorite Carl Albert story.
Here we go. I know which one this is.
So you earned your keys way early on to the store. Like second, third day.
Yeah.
And it was I can trust this kid with all that.
Yep.
And of course on everyone's key when I give it out, I wrote, a nickname, if you will, which we just threw out Coral for you. Yeah.
Yep.
But it was distinct, and we could tell that it was definitely your key.
Yeah.
Which you can see a picture of Carl's keys here. For those that are watching. And I knew that these were his keys just because he says, I only put the key with my house key. I was like, okay, well, that's cool. So you have that. The next day, you came in and says, all right, please don't fire me. I lost my keys. I said,
very next day.
Yeah, like the very next day.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's not like you lost them just right outside the door. Like, no one can just get in and do that. And it was like, yeah, I mean, I'll keep looking for them. And I was like,
it drove me. That was one of the scariest moments for me. I'm just going to interject here. This was within my first month. I was terrified. Everything was scary. And then, and on top of that, and I had my car keys. My home keys were attached to it. It was on a little like key ring. I was like, they're going to be fine there, and they're not going to fall off. It'll be okay. They fell off.
Yeah.
Terrified. I was, oh God, shell shocked. I had my car keys, but nothing else.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the things I said to you is like, hey, I also lost my house keys, so at least I'm suffering too.
Yeah. And at the time, I had your number from the subscription sheet, but you didn't have my phone number.
Yep.
And right after you came in and told that to me, you left, and then one of my first employees came up and was like, hey, do you know whose keys these are? While you were out, sitting on the ledge waiting for a ride, they had fallen off your pocket or whatever. And just, so yeah, there they were.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, you left a key to the store right outside, which should be a fireable offense. But I knew it was an absolute accident. Nothing bad happened.
Right.
But of course I had to get my revenge.
Yes.
So right after we found them, I sent you a picture. This picture. with the message, "What are these worth to you?" And here, I'll let you read your parts.
Yeah. Who is this?
The person with your keys. About a minute. So how much?
Just for some context, I was in a smash burger with friends when I was getting this, and I was equal parts pissed off and terrified. I hope you realize I can have keys made for like $1.25 a piece.
2 minutes later, you didn't answer. I guess they're not important. I know what they go to. $100.
I know your number, and I can call the cops.
And at that point, it was oh man, he's freaking out. So then we send this picture.
I lost it.
Yeah.
I was both madder and so relieved.
To which I replied, "I found your keys, by the way."
There's one. Screw you. You scared the hell out of me. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad I didn't call the cops.
Me too.
Well, at least you know I have a spine.
So, $100? Be here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, from there on, like, it was all pretty smooth.
It was fine, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that kind of showed what kind of boss I'd be.
Right.
Because, I was never cruel or mean or anything,
No.
but, I would always give you the business.
Right. No, definitely.
And,
It's the right way to handle it.
yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carl, I'm so damn proud of you. You're absolutely one of the most impressive people we have
you.
around now.
Thank you.
I expect great things, and I expect you
hope
to
so, yeah.
meet, own, or get an Oscar at some point.
Okay. One of those.
One of those.
Probably the dog named Oscar, but, we'll try.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for listening. I've been Buck Berlin. Running the show for us is Brad Reed, who will tell you all the places that you can find this show and Nerds to Men.
Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes podcasts, Spotify, YouTube.
Donner and Blitzen.
Yeah.
All right, Carl, thanks for being with us.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll hear from you when you come back.
Yeah.
All right. See you all next week.